work as an economist at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business.
It doesn't have to be to the point where it's a full-on crisis for this to create a lot of pain.
Not only do rising interest rates on government debt mean less money to go to government services, it also means the cost of mortgages and auto loans and private borrowing goes up too. I'm Matt Levin for Marketplace.
Well, all right. So I like to play public radio sometimes, right? They have very informative type of content. In other words, they give you information on certain topics, such as the government loan spendings and also the interest rates of people that have taken out loans, which, by the way, I got to tell you, has a strong religious component to this. And please let me cook, because a lot of this, of what I'm about to tell you, really goes into the subject that we are going to talk about with MMA Guru. So there's high interest everywhere. The cost of living is a lot higher than it ever was. And so with that, you're going to have a lot of people commit crimes, acts of desperation. And not only that, aside from the negativity of what an inflation or a bad economy brings, what about the positive side of things where people actually rise above the negativity, become a superstar, and then have enough money to live comfortably in a time where many people are just not living very comfortably right now? Well, this story that I'm about to convey to you guys involves none other than MMA Guru. Because who better than MMA Guru as somebody to have an inspiring story, a story of hope, a story that really gives the struggling people of the world an inspirational look into? I also need you to understand, aside from the fact that I agree with the notion that MMA Guru is a very inspiring person for somebody that is, quite frankly, an underachiever. And by the way, that is the inspirational focal point that a lot of people can really look at. There's a lot of things that I don't agree with him on the political side of things. Now, there's a lot of things that I also agree with him on certain political spectrums, but not everything. There's still a lot that I would absolutely disagree with him on. And then on top of that, let's not add to the fact that when you are an MMA content creator, when you fought in MMA or have trained with some of the top level guys in the world, you are going to have certain biases. Now, the beautiful thing about MMA Guru is that he comes across as somebody that is not biased. Well, now, I think that's changed a little bit, because it doesn't matter if I've only trained with Team Alpha Male several years ago or 10 years ago. I've trained with them, and if there are certain guys that I know that are going to fight in a card that comes from that team, I'm going to have inherent bias towards them, and there is no way around that. That is just the reality of the fact. So he's trained with Drickus, went down to South Africa. I think it's safe to say that he has certain biasness towards the South Africans, in particular, Drickus, Simon, and everybody that's in that clique. Wouldn't you agree? Well, on any regard, before all that, and that comes with the price of building fame and notoriety and clout. As a result of that clout, you naturally are going to build relationships. There's no way around that. Same thing with rappers. The minute they come up, there are certain relationships that they build, whether it's within the industry or whether it's within the streets. And MMA Guru is no different than that. But prior to all that, the product that he was trying to sell to the world on the come up, because that is where you really sell your product to the world of who you are and what you're about. That's the come up. Okay, that's the product that you sell to the world. That guy, that version of MMA Guru, he was unbiased because of the fact that he had no affiliations with anybody other than himself and other than his own desires of being an MMA fan. That is it. That is the reality of MMA Guru. Okay? He is only unbiased because he had no prior affiliations with any gym, any fighter, or any organization. Well, now it's a little bit different. Now you're sponsored by betting companies. And with that comes with a criticism of people that are within your quote unquote red pill based community and sometimes even white nationalist sentiment that are within the ranks of his subscribers and followers, right? Well, now you're kind of betraying them because you're promoting something that is somewhat of a, how do I say this, a Zionist invention. And that right there is crossing lines that sort of hit a certain percentage of your fan base. But nonetheless, again, that is the price of what you get when you come up there. But you know what? This whole conversation is not so much more about the come up per se, not so much about that, but rather more about, I'm sorry, not the post come up. I'm talking about the struggles before the come up. That quarter of a YouTuber's life or content creator where everybody is doubting them. They're doubting their abilities. They're the underdog at this point, right? When he was that, I think that part of his particular life is very much inspirational. And I got a lot out of that DJ interview with him and Mighty Mouse. I got a lot out of that. One of the things that I got out of that is there are many people out there in the world that are struggling. Did you know that this guy mentioned something to the effect of, you know what, I don't know if I want to live anymore? And I'm like thinking, wow, listen, man, how on earth is it that you feel that way? Okay? You're a 6'3" Welshman who lives in London, and I'm thinking, man, that's a great life. How can you complain about a life like that? And then I realized, man, there's more to life than just a glamorized city that you live in. There's more to life than just the title that you have as CEO, or title as this, or title as that, and things of that nature. There's more to life than that. There really is, right? But how can you fulfill what is more to life when you are stuck in a bubble of this 9 to 5 grind that you can't get out of? Well, he found a way out. And that alone, I think, is one of the biggest inspirational points that I think we can take from MMA Guru and the situation that brought him up to the stage where he's at right now. Look, I need you guys to understand something. The reason why I literally made a 3-part series about this, if you're watching this, this is literally part 3, okay? But the part 1 and 2 that I did on this particular segment is on my members section. But this one I'm going to leave up because I want to try to get the most views out of this one. Angelo says, hey, what up, buddy? How you doing, man? How are you, Angelo? We're just talking about MMA Guru right now and the inspiration that he has brought to people in the MMA space. And I'm going to tell you why this is a very important conversation to have. But more so, I do disagree with a lot of his lifestyle, a lot of his points. There's a lot of things that I agree with him on. There's everything down the middle when it comes to MMA Guru and how I'm going to assess him, right? But the important thing is that there are many people out there struggling with their daily life. And I think that it is very important to look at his life and how he got out of the rut and the situation that he got into. Right on, right on. And with that in mind, I'm going to give you guys a 30-second intermission, and we will be right back. And we're going to talk more about it because I just want to build up the anticipation for that. So 30 seconds, literally, wait right here. All right. All right. So back at it. So, okay. Now I'm going to talk about why that interview with Demetrius Johnson and MMA Guru was an absolute cultural phenomenon. I'm not even exaggerating. It was a cultural phenomenon. I'm going to tell you why. You guys realize that many of you have failed on your dreams. I really mean that, man. A lot of you have failed on your dreams. You ever met a police officer that used to wrestle in high school, that used to play baseball, and always bragged about, man, I was really good back in the day. Oh, you know what? I had a good crossover back in the day. I knew many guys like that. And the reason why I'm mentioning cops is because I grew up and went to high school with a lot of kids that became cops. And as a result of that, prior to their experience in law enforcement and their life in high school, they were exactly that, high school athletes. So these are guys that have failed and given up on their dreams. Now, sometimes it's forced upon you. Okay, other times there's a situation where you are a highly talented individual. You have a lot of potential. You have a lot of you have a lot more possibilities of actually making it than the next guy. You know who those guys are. There's always guys out there that are like, you know what, this guy is going to make it. There's always guys out there that are like that. Okay, and I'm going to give you an example, right? When I was growing up in Jersey City, there was this rapper by the name of Joe Buttons. Okay, and I think a lot of you guys know who Joe Buttons is. So I knew a lot of dudes in Jersey City. Okay, I was heavily affiliated with people from that city. And as a result, I knew people that were in Joe Button's street team. Now, for those of you that don't understand what a street team is in terms of hip hop promotions, let me break it down to you. Back in the days when people used to sell CDs and people used to sell cassette tapes, actual physical copies of music, they would send out street teams to promote an artist. So, for example, you had 50 Cent back in the days, right? He had a street team. What did he do with his street team? He went and spread it out, all of his mixtapes, all of his mixtape albums, and all of that. He started using a street team to go and promote his music, where he would rap over other beats. He would do remixes, or sometimes even give preview to a song that he was going to put in an upcoming album. And that's what a street team was. Joe Buttons had a street team. So out of all the people that I knew in Jersey City back in the days, in the early 2000s, that could rap, that could sing, that could do all types of things in the music industry, why is it that Joe Buttons had a street team? Well, let's be honest, right? Joe Buttons back in the day was an absolute lyrical genius. And he was also great at flowing. It's just the nature of Joe Buttons and why he was a good rapper and why he came out with a good song back in the days. Now, everybody knew that he would make it. They could tell. So you know what? He had no reason to give up. He didn't have a reason to give up. He didn't give up. In fact, not only did he not give up, he failed at rap because, once again, what I told you about those cops or those people that I went to high school with who became cops and that were former athletes, right? What about them? Eventually, they had to stop. When? Whether it was after high school, in which they didn't make it to college, or whether it was after college, in which they didn't make it to the pros. There was a point where they had to stop. There was a point where they had to give up on their dreams. And Joe Buttons was at that crossroads. So he realized, you know what? This is time for me to stop rapping. I'm going to get into podcasting. And guess what? Lo and behold, what happened to Joe Buttons as a result of that? He became the king of podcasting when it came to the hip hop space. So Joe Buttons literally became almost the Joe Rogan of the hip hop world. You understand? So that's the reality of that situation. He found a different lane, and he also knew when to quit, but he also knew when to keep going. So the moral of that story is that MMA Guru knew that he had to keep going because he knew that he had something. He knew that he had the impressions that was going to impress a lot of people in the MMA space. He knew that he had the charisma. He knew that he had the MMA knowledge. Not just the MMA knowledge. Here's the thing. This is a guy who never trained with a team. MMA Guru never trained with anybody. But even with that, as a result, he knows so much about the game because he had so much time in his hands, or at least made time in his hands, to learn about the game and enhance his ability to break down the game as an analysis. So he is literally a self-made MMA analysis, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And you know what? A lot of people can take inspiration to that. I'm speaking as somebody who has competed before from a level of authority, right? And so I got to be honest with you, there's a lot of guys out there that have fought in higher levels, that have gone on and fought in championships and this and that. But not all the time people really want to hear their breakdown and how they see things. Because here's the reality of it. When you are in analysis and you are a former fighter, you are always going to have inherent bias. And you know what? Here's the crazy thing about MMA Guru. We don't know if he's ever going to let go of his particular inherent bias that he has towards DDP. Because prior to going to South Africa and training down there, he was actually a person that had no affiliations with any gym or any fighter up until he got invited down to South Africa to train with Dricus. You understand what I'm saying? So now he's in a bit of a different lane. But the main thing, aside from all the objectivity that I could throw at you about MMA Guru, the one thing I want to highly emphasize about MMA Guru is this, right? MMA Guru inspired people who didn't come from the MMA world and didn't come from anything. In other words, what he really inspired, MMA Guru, what he inspired was that you can literally make something from nothing. And that's literally what he is. And I'm not saying that in a very disrespectful way. I'm saying that in a very objectionable manner. He literally came from nothing. His MMA is nothing. His wrestling is nothing. His knowledge of the game, firsthand experience, is literally nothing other than when he went and trained with Cameron Simon and the likes of Dricus down in South Africa. That is it. That is it. That is all that you have for MMA Guru's firsthand knowledge. But guess what? People flock to him. People look for his opinions. He shapes the game of mixed martial arts. Not only that, he helped Moicano get a title shot. That is by default because Islam's original opponent, Arman Sarukian, had to pull out for his own reasons. But that's neither here or there. MMA Guru is influential, and now we're going to talk about and analyze exactly why that is. Hit the like and subscribe button because we're going to get into some real hot topics regarding this particular subject that I don't think any of you want to miss out on, right? Do you realize that a lot of you have missed out on the potentials of your dreams? And again, I'm speaking in general terms because I don't even know who I'm talking to and who I'm saying that specifically. But you know who you are, you know the life that you lead, and you knew exactly what you did or what you didn't do, or how much you could have done or how little you could have done based on you trying to accomplish your dreams. Okay, many of you have been shot down your whole entire lives by negative people, and you know this. MMA Guru never allowed anybody to fester their negativity into his domain. A lot of you allow other people to do that. Oh, you know what? I'm going to start a YouTube channel today. Okay, well, do it. Go sign up, put in your email, and get a profile picture, and then get a camera. Okay, you can't afford a camera. Okay, try whatever's in front of you. Try your phone. Make content. Do something. Talk about whatever. Get your name out there. Uh, Put yourself in the algorithm. No, that's too hard. I don't want to do it. I'll do it tomorrow. You have no idea how many people tell me, I want to start a podcast. Oh, I'm going to start a podcast. 2 years later, I'm going to start a podcast. 3 years later, I'm going to start a podcast. 4 years later, hey, Kyrie wants you to come to my MMA channel so we can talk MMA. You said you wanted to do a podcast. No. It's not the right time. Not the right time, brother. This is how many people are. MMA Guru didn't do any of that. He's like, you know what? I'm going to work. I'm going to grind. I got nothing else. Look, here's another thing that I want to talk to you guys about that I think is really important to understand. Another thing that MMA Guru emphasized was that he did not have a plan B. I made a video about Tom Aspinall's dad not having a plan B. He quit his job, a very important job, an IT tech job, as a computer analysis, six-figure job, upper middle class. Go figure. That's why he's a jiu-jitsu guy. Most jiu-jitsu guys are upper middle class or middle class folks. But nonetheless, he sacrificed it all because he knew that his son was going to be a world champion. You guys understand that? How many of you will sacrifice your IT job, six-figure job, just because you think that your son has a shot of being the heavyweight champion of the world? Tom Aspinall's dad did. Let's see what my man here says. Mark Yakic says, well said, man. Thank you. I'm glad you were there for that monologue. That I'm glad that you enjoyed that one and understood it. Juice Man 562 says, what's up, bro? Stockton to Long Beach. That's right, man. Shout out to Stockton to Long Beach. Cuz Mark Yakic, who's going to carry the boats? What do you mean by carry the boats? That's an interesting comment you have up there. But on any regard, guys, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. I'm about to drop some knowledge on you that goes beyond MMA, and this is one of the reasons why I love doing MMA content, because it's not like doing basketball content or football content or Premier League soccer content. It's literally like doing content about life, because martial arts is what exactly? Martial arts is a great vehicle to learn about the difficulties of life, and that's just the realities of it. Oh, okay, David Goggins quote. Got it. Okay, shout out to David Goggins. By the way, man, David Goggins really needs to watch out training other fighters. You want to know why? Because training other fighters, I think he's going to lower their testosterone, because what is needed in military training is a long, drawn-out stamina in which you are going to be fighting and be up for days and on out and have the stamina to run for miles and miles on out if you are captured or anything that has to deal with hiking or being out in the woods. But when you are professionally fighting, you have a time limit in which you are fighting 25 minutes, and you have to try to exert as much energy and as much recovery as within that time in order to perform within that interval time space. So that is why, it would not be a good idea. It would not be a good idea for David Goggins to train other fighters. Mike asked me, where are you going? So wherever I'm going to be, I will never discuss that, because, well, it's none of anyone's business. I don't ask you guys what you do on your day or this and that. Unless you really want to disclose that, that's perfectly fine. But for me, I value security and privacy, and so I'd rather not say. Sometimes I have a purpose of where I'm going, where I get in my car and just drive off. One of my cars, at least, because, let's just put it like that. I got a couple of cars that I choose from during the day, but I'll either have an errand to run, I'm either going to do work, or I'm either going to do something. You'll never know what I'm going to do, but know that I'm here. Mike says, do you think that Khamzat will destroy DDP? I think that there is a great possibility he could submit him in the first round. That is a great possibility because once Khamzat shoots in on you and you don't defend it in any kind of way, he's going to take advantage of it, and then he's going to transition from half guard to side control, and then from side control, he's going to either go north-south, and then from north-south, he's going to try to take your back, and then once he takes your back, he's going to go for a figure four leg lock right around your body, and then there you are for the rear naked choke, maybe even an arm bar if he gets it, or maybe even a ground and pound position where DDP can't get up. That's what I think is going to happen. Mike asks, do you think DDP is stronger than Rob? I absolutely think DDP is stronger than Rob. I want to tell you something about DDP's training method that I think is really underrated. Number one, the reason why he looks awkward in the way that he does is because he emphasizes his attributes on physical fitness more than he attributes his skills. You understand? So in other words, he has an emphasis on fitness over skills. The way that he trains in the high elevations all the time. Not only that, he trains in the heat. I train in the heat. I'll do shadow boxing rounds in the hot sauna. And the reason for that is because I want to build up my CO2 max levels. That's what it does for you, training in a hot condition like that. So do I think that DDP is stronger than Rob? I'm going to say yes, Michael Oslong. I think that he's absolutely stronger. But here's the thing. When Khamzat Chimaev, right? Khamzat is an athlete. I mean, he is a super freak of an athlete, okay? That's one thing that you can say about Khamzat. As a result of being a super freak athlete, Khamzat is also a highly skilled mixed martial arts fighter. So he's going to apply skills and extreme physical attributes. Because here's the thing, right? A lot of people forget that strong physical attributes is really what wins a lot of fights. You see it with Francis Ngannou. The skill discrepancy that he gives up, he compensates with his freakish attributes. And there's no way around that. DDP will be a problem for Khamzat maybe early in the round. Because if he doesn't become a problem early in the round, it is Khamzat's opening to get a finish in the first round. Mike says, would you put your money on Paddy or Ilya? Well, I'm glad you asked that. I'm a Muslim. I don't bet. I don't make bets or anything like that. I'm not a betting man. Not my thing. But I will say, I think Paddy's got a pretty good shot of beating Ilya Topuria. I really do. I think the more that I'm watching Paddy and the more that I'm watching him develop, and now that he's taking it even more seriously, I think there is a factor where Paddy's genetic makeup that gives him an advantage, along with his work ethic and a little bit of a sprinkle of having a good and decent team that can break down fights for him, I think is what is helping him become a much more elite athlete and maybe even a serious threat in the top three of the division. So Mike Long says, theoretically. So when Khamzat falls out, who do you have fighting DDP? So you are assuming that, let's say, if Khamzat has an injury, who's going to step in? That's a great question. D. Ritter. Either D. Ritter or the winner of Whitaker versus D. Ritter, which is more than likely going to be D. Ritter. I think that's who they're going to go with. D. Ritter has a huge following, man. He's Dutch. He's fought in his part of the world. Now he fought in Asia. So, you know, this is a very popular guy that they can get behind. Obviously, there's a reason why that fight with him and Bo Nickel was pretty big. Look, it was a fight that got big after the fact. There's just some fights out there that are bigger after the fact and not really as significant as when it was going on. Forrest Griffin and what's his name? Stephen Bonner was a great example of that. Like, that fight wasn't nothing, man. While it was going on, it was like just two guys that looked like they were complete amateurs at the time, and it was a very premature stage of MMA. But after the fact, the fight became even more legendary than it was. So that's sort of the same example of that trajectory that I'm leaning towards. So yeah, man, great conversations about DDP and Khamzat. Really excited for that. Now look, a lot of people are saying these are two non-Americans fighting in Chicago. Not so fast. Khamzat Chimaev is a Muslim fighting in a Muslim town. Now, if you guys know anything about King Von, O Block, all these gangs in Chicago, there was this one block that a famous rapper, King Von and Little Durk, come from, who, by the way, has federal charges going on with him right now, right? They became a Muslim neighborhood. Chicago is already a strong Muslim population. I mean, Bilal Muhammad came from there, right? So Bilal Muhammad will probably be sitting cage side watching that fight, I would imagine. If not, maybe even fight somewhere in the main or co-main event or something like that, right? I mean, yeah, you could throw, I don't know, man. It would depend on how badly damaged he is or this and that. Okay, theoretically, Mike Long says, Patty big, look big again against Chandler. He did look big because you know what? He's finally taking it seriously. I think he's also doing some weight training and proper weight training while also just staying fit all year round. So yeah, man, you got to give Patty some props on that end, right? But speaking of which, I think Patty did an MMA Guru interview. I want to get more on this MMA Guru interview because I think that there's a lot of life lessons that you can learn from this, right? Now, look, DJ addressed every situation that a lot of people ask about MMA Guru. You know, are you racist or this and that? DJ said something to the effect that, hey, you know what? I'm not really one of these guys that gets offended so easily or this and that. I let my kids watch South Park. I'm not into this whole woke thing. There was this one conversation where DJ once brought up and said that, yeah, you know what? I think my cousin is GAY. And so I told him, man, you better get out of here with that stuff, right? Very honest. Like, I love the candid honesty of DJ. But also, I think the dynamic of MMA Guru also highlighted that. They complemented each other very well, even though these are two guys that really have contrasting views of the world. But at the same time, when they sat down and they talked, what did we learn out of these two? They're not really that far apart. And look, I'm not here to say any of these things because I'm a DJ fan. I'm not here to say any of these things because I'm an MMA Guru fan. In fact, that could be further from the truth. I'm saying these things because there are important life lessons that you can learn from everybody. And if you don't learn them, whether you like them or not, you're not an objective-minded person. You're not a person that has emotional stability. You got to be able to look at people that you don't like and say, you know what? I don't like you. I don't like what you got to say. We are vehemently opposed to each other. But I think you got some good ideas and a good life lesson that I could learn from. And only a wise man would look at that and take it as a lesson rather than just shoo them away and say, there's the ops. I don't want to talk to the ops or I don't want to deal with them in any kind of way, right? There's more to it than that. Okay, let's read some of the chats here. Monticello, shout out to Monticello. He says, I hope Chandler gets DQ'd in his rematch fight. Oh, wow. Okay. Mark Yakic says, how dare you? Chandler is the most entertaining lightweight on the planet. Monticello says, Buckley will become the new stepdad of... Oh, man. Oh, that's cold. That's a cold comment right there, Monticello. Mike Long says, why do you think Dana pays the fighters 30% of what boxers make in the UFC has more possibilities of life-changing injury? That's very true. Mark Yakic says boxing is more dangerous than MMA. Now, I got to agree with Mark on that one. Boxing is absolutely more dangerous than MMA, but boxing is not dangerous for everybody. Let me repeat that. Boxing is more dangerous for MMA, but boxing is not dangerous for everybody. Now, why do I say that? Let me give you some reference. Billy Joe Saunders once said, I could spar multiple times a week. There's a lot of fighters in MMA that say that also. Israel Adesanya, he says that he can spar multiple times a week. Sean Strickland obviously spars multiple times a week. What do they all have in common? They all have good defense. They all have good head movement. They all have good footwork. They all have some mitigating factor that helps them alleviate a lot of brain damage. And as a result, they are able to spar multiple times, if not fight multiple times. Then, of course, there's the contrasting elements of that with the likes of Max Holloway, where he spars very little, and as a result of the lack of sparring, he actually saves his brain. Which, by the way, this is why I stand on the prediction and the take that Max Holloway is going to do Dustin Poirier in on July 19th. So let's see if my prediction holds up on that particular regard. So with that in mind, that is why I say boxing is not dangerous for everybody. It's not dangerous for Canelo, although it could be. Maybe there's going to be signs of CTE at some point of his career. He did take a lot of shots all throughout his career. He was in a lot of 12-round wars that could vehemently affect his CTE conditions. But that is why I agree with Mark that boxing is a lot more dangerous than MMA. Whereas with MMA, there's other elements that can potentially damage you even worse. I mean, look at Marc-Andre Bourlaug, where he elbowed Bruno Silva, right? Really cracked his skull and sent him to the hospital. That's not something you're going to see in boxing. But in MMA, those are the deadly consequences. But in MMA, you have grappling to mitigate danger away from you. Whereas in boxing, you have a very limited amount of time to where you can clinch until the referee breaks it up. Okay, so let me read some of the comments here for this one. Mike says, in boxing, they won't snap your arm, legs, or neck. That's also true. Mike Long says, Leon Edwards could have gotten paralyzed against Bilal. That's also true, man. That's also true. That spike that he did on his head, yeah, that is a pile driver. And you know what? Owen Hart nearly paralyzed Stone Cold Steve Austin in a move like that. And that was done in a fake fictional scenario. Mark says, but boxing is more focused on hitting the head. Correct. Broken bones heal. Brain damage, not so much. That's also very correct. Good points on Mike Long in that one. Mike Long says Canelo has been taking easy fights. His last fights, he was in any real danger was against Bivol. Correct. And then even though he lost that fight, wasn't really the most dangerous looking fight for Canelo by a long shot, was it? So yeah, something else to consider in that regard. Okay, so what else? What else is another fight that has been announced? So obviously, what about John Jones? Let's switch topics to John Jones right now, right? Because I know, and I'll bet many of you right now are really annoyed with John Jones. The fact that he has decided, you know what? I'm not going to give up my belt. Because look, do you guys believe Dana White? Let's be honest. Do you guys believe Dana White when he says, yeah, I got the fight signed? No, you don't. You don't got no fight signed. You know why you're saying that is because you're trying to punk John Jones and hold him hostage into taking that fight. Public shaming. Let me tell you, it works. Public shaming works. You guys ever been in street fights in high school? Oh, yeah, that kid right there says you're a punk. You know, he says you're no good, you know, or this and that. All right. Like, do you realize that? I mean, do you realize that's what UFC matchmakers do? They punk you into taking fights. So can you imagine, right? the sun is going down here a little bit. So can you imagine? You're John Jones, right? And you're telling the world, well, I'm living my best life. So in other words, that's another way of saying that you have no intention of pretty much fighting Tom Aspinall because you're living your best life. Do you think Tom Aspinall isn't living his best life? He is. Not only is he living his best life, he's like, yeah, well, I'm living my best life, mate. You know, and not only that, John Jones, come fight me. I have no disrespect towards you, but I just want to show that I'm the best in the world, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, everybody is living their best life. You're a fighter. You don't got to work a 9-to-5 job. Your job is just training all day, which consists of maybe 1 or 2 hours, and then that's it. And then you go home. And then maybe you get on your social media, promote yourself a little bit, maybe do a YouTube video. That's it. That's a life of a fighter. Alberto Campos says, have some respect, bro. For who, my brother? Who are you talking about? Mark Yakic says, we're going to announce that soon. LOL, nothing signed. Starting to feel like Chandler McGregor. Mike, the Chandler McGregor situation is literally the reason why I don't have confidence that this fight is going to happen. That is where a lot of this is coming from. No, real talk. That's where a lot of this is coming from. It's coming from that. It's really coming from that. I'm not joking. I'm not joking at all. So, yeah, it's hard to feel confidence in that particular notion. It really is. Again, there's also other factors you got to look at. There's a TV deal. I want to take that into consideration. So if Alberto Campos is talking about have some respect, maybe that's what he means. I'm just being objective all around, okay? Mike Oslong says at Mark, he's saying this to Mark. He says, but yeah, in the UFC, they can literally knee you in the face. That hit would probably give you way more CTE than any boxing match. Okay, that's hard to argue with that. And they can keep in kneeing you and elbowing you with harder blows then. This can too. Mike Oslong also says, like that knee from Sean O'Malley to Cheeto. Yeah, man, it's hard to argue Mike Oslong with that. That's very correct, Mike Oslong. Very hard to argue that fact. That is a reality. That is true. Yeah, man. Looks like MMA could potentially be more dangerous than boxing. Because I told you guys, I don't die on a hill just based on my first initial opinion on things, right? I'm going to have an opinion on it. If things subject to change due to new information, I'm going to go off of that. By the way, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. You are now tuned into the most objective mixed martial arts channel in the history of mankind, and also probably the most epic mixed martial arts channel in the history of mankind as well. I'm about to show you exactly why. So, let's go back to the first topic at hand with MMA Guru. What did I mention about MMA Guru? I said, number one, this guy is an inspiration to many people out there who are struggling. It's really important to know that. The inflation that is going on in America right now, the cost of living going on around the world, it's really depressing a lot of people. And you know what? A lot of people that are younger than me are going to have a hard time ever owning a house. Okay? They're going to have a hard time ever owning a house. That's a fact. Now, the other alternative perspective that they gain out of that is, do I really need to have a house? Here's another thing, right? Let's look back with MMA Guru, right? This kid has not driven a car since he was probably like in his mid-20s. That's very weird, okay? Okay, we got some more chats going on with this one. Mike Oslong says, now with the 12-6 elbow legal too. Yeah. Mark Yakic says, I'm not saying that you can't get messed up, but volume-wise, you can get hit way more with boxing, worse for the brain. Mark Yakic also says 0 UFC deaths. How many boxing deaths? A whole too many. I did have one teammate that died. He didn't die in the MMA fight, but he died days after due to just severe brain bleeding. His name was Ray Ray. I trained with him in Collective Combat Academy out here in Sacramento, in the Del Paso area. So, shout out to him, and may Allah accept him. So, Mark Oslong says, I was waiting for that one. It's true. I think boxing dies have more deaths. Yeah, it does have more deaths. Yes, that is true. Boxing definitely has more deaths. So, all right. So, yeah, I think I talked a lot about the MMA Guru situation. If you guys want to check out the monologue on that particular topic, rewind back from the very beginning. I dropped some very important life lessons on that. Never giving up on your dreams, never giving up on what it is that you look for. But then the other side of that is, when is it going to be a realistic talk for somebody to say that, hey, you know what? Maybe you're just too short to make it in the NBA, right? Or maybe create a different avenue for them. Well, okay, since you can't do NBA, you can't play basketball, maybe you can do a basketball podcast, right? Yeah, Mark Yakic says, yeah, I'm sorry about Ray Ray. Rest in peace to him. Yeah, man, shout outs to him. Mike Oslong says, does Kimbo count? No, he doesn't count because he didn't die in a fight. He died after the fact. Very similar to Ray Ray, but with Ray Ray, I think it was an accumulative damage amount of shots. The dude fought a lot. He was a journeyman MMA fighter at some point, right? Started out with 1-2, or I'm sorry, 1-0 record or a 2-0 record like everybody else, and then eventually became a journeyman fighter. And that journey, unfortunately, led him to a lot of unfortunate brain damage issues, which ultimately led to his demise. So, yeah, I think SI. Wasn't Kimbo a heart attack? From what I remember, yes, correct. Yeah, so among the conversations of Mark Yakic and Mike Long on that one. The Jake Paul versus Cesar Chavez Jr. is a joke. Good topic to bring up. I saw the press conference today. Good banter that they had between them. Jake Paul was saying that he was going to fight both him and his dad. And he said that his Spanish name was Cocaina. And then you were saying that Jake Paul is not a real fighter. Look, this is a very weird, very strange narrative that people constantly harp on, right? About Jake Paul not being a real fighter. At what point is he a real fighter? Okay, now he also made a point in that press conference that if I go and take this guy out, people are going to make excuses again. And he's right. A lot of people are going to make excuses. They are absolutely going to make excuses based on, he's not disciplined enough or this and that. But Cesar Chavez Sr. said that this is the most disciplined that he's ever seen Cesar Chavez, which, by the way, is very strange. And it got me thinking, like, why would you be this disciplined for a Jake Paul fight, but not for your past championship fights? But then again, maybe it's a different stake. Maybe there's a different motivation of money that's involved. Who knows? Mark Yakic said, sorry, dude, we've just been interrupting your MMA Guru discussion. No, not at all. You know what? I think I've talked a lot about that subject already. I don't mind bringing up all these other subjects. Remember, guys, this chat and this live stream is not just for me, but it's also for you. It's made by me, but it's also inspired by you. Now, it's also inspired by my ideas, but it's also piggybacked off of your ideas as well. So that is what you call, a natural discourse of intellectual sharing, right? That's the best way to look at it. Mike Long says, the messed up part is that Chavez Jr. will walk out with millions while Chandler got wrecked and got paid breadcrumbs. That's very true. Did you guys see the Lou DiBella interview? I believe I played a clip of it in one of my live streams yesterday. You know, I'm doing so much live streams now, like, you know, during the day, like multiple times a day now. I can't even remember which one it is. But I remember the Lou DiBella one. Oh, no, I believe it was a Terrence Crawford, podcast that I did, or the live stream that I did. But on any regard, Lou DiBella says that there's no middle class in boxing. He's right. In the UFC, there's a middle class. So when we look at the top stars that are making most of the money, it's mostly in boxing. But everybody else underneath all that is really getting served breadcrumbs. So let's try to put that in perspective. You know, if we want to talk about breadcrumbs, but that's there's some realities to that effect. But on any regard, yeah, man, look, back to the MMA Guru discussion, right? And you know what? Listen, man, I got ADHD. I can literally jump back and forth on different conversations, and it's no problem for me at all. So just remember that. It is absolutely no problem for me to jump from one conversation to another, so long as we keep the live stream entertained and popping and cracking and everything in between. All right, so many people don't like their jobs. MMA Guru talked about how he hated his job, the monotonous situation of living the day-to-day struggles and this and that, right? Look, MMA Guru absolutely inspired me on that, right? Because I understand that particular struggle. Okay, I understand what he means. I think a lot of people can relate. I think a lot of people can relate to that struggle, right? But obviously, I didn't fight out of my struggle with YouTube. I'm only in YouTube because, how do I say this? I like to achieve things, right? I've achieved a lot of things in my life, college degree, Muay Thai state titles, getting into MMA, training in MMA, building my body to the best of my ability, just being adventurous, traveling in different places, all of these things that I can check off the list, right? YouTube now happens to be one of them. And even though he has a different motivation, his motivation is based on, grinding and trying to make it. But not only that, for me, it's greatness. It really is. I want to prove that I'm the best MMA streamer in the world. And I think that a lot of people out there would stand by me, by my side on that notion, because I proved it. I've done it. I've done almost 800 videos regarding this particular subject, maybe even more. But okay, let's hear what Monticello had to say here. Guru only reads big donos. Almost always has a ishy attitude on his stream, and many times refuses a simple, harmless request. So here's the thing, right? MMA Guru is also a character. Look, me, I would never act like that. You want to know why? Because I know I can whoop people's butt. I don't think MMA Guru understands that he could whoop people's butt. I think that he can, because he's 6'3". He can beat up people that are untrained. But if you're a trained guy, there's a different confidence that you carry. Like, for example, I'm not going to go out here and verbally abuse somebody on a stream just for the heck of it. Now, if you go after me and you try to make fun of me and you try to transgress against me in any kind of wrong way, you better believe that I'm going to bring fire and brimstone on your side. No doubt about that. But if we're going to be cordial, of course I'm going to be a gentleman. I'm going to be accommodating. I'm going to be nice, right? I'm going to be hospitable. MMA Guru doesn't know how to do that because the guy did not grow up knowing that he was a badass. The guy just knew that he was tall, but who cares? Everybody in England is tall, right? There's a lot of tall Englishmen out there that play rugby, that fight, that do martial arts, that do all types of things. He was nobody special, and he didn't train. So he doesn't know He's not the type of guy that knows he's a badass. That's just a reality of MMA Guru. But to me, I know what I can do. I've proven myself in competitive situations. Not only that, in street fights as well. People forget I got a street reputation out here in Sacramento as well, right? You know what I mean? Let's not taint that in any kind of way. But not to brag, that's just the reality of it. So, of course, I'm going to be a lot more nicer than the average person whose life was really harsh to them. And it's not to say that life wasn't harsh to me, right? I'm not here to spill my trauma on the world or anything like that. I'm not about to do that. But let's just say that everybody's life has been harsh to them in some kind of way, in some kind of capacity. But the main thing is that he's not a trained fighter, so he is going to come across as abrasive and sometimes more so trying to prove himself more than the next guy that knows what they can do. Okay, let me see what the chat here said. Monticello says he also lies and greatly over exaggerates his fighting abilities. That's true, right? Like, how can you over exaggerate your fighting abilities if you've never really tested yourself, right? And you look, we've seen him on the pads with Cameron Simon, for crying out loud. The dude looks horrible. He looks horrible against Cameron Simon. I mean, when he was being held pads with Cameron Simon. Mark Yakic says, bro, when are you fighting on a Contender Series? I would watch. Yeah, man. That's I'm a little too old for that right now, but you know, I still train martial arts. I would rather just talk about martial arts than actually do and commit myself to a martial arts competition in any kind of degree. But yeah, man, uh, I would always love to see my friends in that too. You know what I mean? Anybody that I know that's actively training, you know, or actively in there, you know, that's always something that I look forward to. So yeah, man. We had, speaking of which, you know what? I had one of Kamzat's training partners in the chat here the other day. All-star MMA guy. He's a Georgian fighter. He's a 135er, right? I think his name is Leonardo something. But yeah, look him up. You got that Dagestani facial hair, Jack Gallagher says. Shout out to Jack Gallagher. Dude, 2 to 3 years, Dagestan, and you are champion, brother. Shout out to you. Yeah, man. Shout out to Jack Gallagher. Is that Jack Gallagher as in the oh wait, no. That's I'm thinking of Jack Swagger, the former pro wrestler that also became an MMA fighter. Shout outs to him in that regard. But yeah, man, if you want to hear the positive side that I had to say about MMA Guru, start from the very beginning. If you want to hear the negative side about MMA Guru, then you are at the right place, which is going to be at the end of the live stream right now. And speaking of which, the reason for that is because, well, that's the assessment of some of the people in the chat. Now, it is correct that MMA Guru does over exaggerate his fighting abilities, but the one thing you cannot take away from the kid is that he persevered as a content creator, and he's not somebody that I would look up to as, all right, you should train this way. I mean, for crying out loud, his pad skills with Cameron Simon looked horrible. Like, and that was just boxing alone. I would not even want to fathom what he would look like trying to shoot in for a takedown, let alone throw kicks. But the one inspiration that I get out of MMA Guru is that he's a great streamer and a great YouTuber, and that is something that you should look up to in terms of his blueprint and how he got successful in this game. So with that in mind, guys, that is all that I have for you in this segment of this live stream. I hope you enjoyed it. That's been 1 hour with me that I've done for this live stream. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next one, inshallah.